Jake Miller never believed in aliens. His simple life as a mechanic in small-town Nevada kept him busy enough without worrying about beings from other planets. But everything changed on that cool autumn night when the stars seemed to shift and a strange light appeared in the sky behind his workshop. Jake was working late fixing old Mrs. Wilson's car when he noticed the unusual glow through the dirty windows of his garage. He wiped his greasy hands on a rag and stepped outside, curious about the source of the light. At first he thought it might be a plane or perhaps some kind of military exercise from the nearby base. The light grew closer and closer until Jake realized it was some kind of spacecraft. It moved silently through the night sky with graceful precision before hovering over the empty field behind his shop. Jake stood frozen, unable to run, as the craft descended and landed, without making a sound. The desert air was still the only noise came from the distant highway and the gentle hum emanating from the strange vessel. Jake knew he should call someone, the police or maybe the military, but something kept him rooted to the spot. As the craft's smooth metallic surface shifted and an opening appeared. A ramp extended, from the ship touching the dry Nevada soil with a soft thud. She appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against a pulsing blue light from inside the ship. She looked almost human, but not quite. Her skin had a faint purple hue, visible even in the dim light, and her eyes glowed like amber in the moonlight. She wore a tight-fitting suit that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Her long, dark hair floated around her as if underwater, defying gravity. Jake found himself unable to look away as she approached. She moved with inhuman grace like a predator stalking prey. When she smiled, he saw the tips of fangs glinting in the dim light. She was beautiful and terrifying. All at once, "Something is wrong with me," the alien woman said in perfect English. Though her lips barely moved, she reached out one slender hand toward Jake. "I need your help." Her voice seemed to echo inside his mind, rather than through the air. Against all reason, Jake took her hand and led her into his workshop. He should have been terrified, but something about her pulled at him made him want to help. Her touch was cold like metal left outside on a winter night. "My name is Lyra," she said, as she looked around the cluttered garage with obvious curiosity. "I have traveled a great distance to find someone like you, someone like me." Jake managed to ask, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. "What does that mean?" Lyra explained that she was part of an advanced scout team from a civilization millions of light years away. Her people called themselves the Vestari. They had been watching Earth for centuries, studying humans from afar, learning languages, customs, and biology. "We are similar to what you would call vampires in your folklore," she told him as she picked up a wrench, examining it with intense fascination. "We need biological fluids to survive. But unlike your myths, we do not kill our hosts. We take only what we need." Jake felt a shiver run down his spine as she moved closer. Her amber eyes seemed to see through him, to read his thoughts and fears. He backed up until he hit his workbench, tools clattering to the floor. "I need your blood, Jake Miller," she whispered. "But I will give you something valuable in return." Before Jake could respond, she showed him a small device that looked like a silver disc with intricate patterns etched on its surface. It pulsed with a soft blue light, matching the glow from her ship. "It contains the cure for many human diseases," she said, "including the one that killed your mother 3 years ago, cancer as you call it." Jake gasped. "How did you know about my mother?" He had never mentioned her to anyone in town. He kept to himself, especially after her death. "We have been watching you specifically," Lyra said. Her voice was soft but matter-of-fact. "You were chosen because of your genetic makeup and your isolation. You have no close family. Your friends would not miss you for several days if necessary." Her honesty was chilling. She explained that Vestari scouts had been sent to find compatible humans. Their species was dying. A genetic disease was killing them off one by one. They needed human DNA, specifically certain rare genetic markers, to create a cure. These markers appeared in less than 1% of the human population. "You have these markers," Jake Miller, Lyra said, placing the silver disc on the workbench. "The exchange would benefit both our species, I take only a small amount of your blood. You get cures for diseases that plague your world. Jake thought about all the people suffering from the same cancer that took his mother. He thought about children in hospitals and families torn apart by illness. Could he really turn down this chance to help them all? The disc seemed to pulse brighter, as if sensing his thoughts, but something felt wrong. He noticed Lyra never blinked. Her amber eyes stayed fixed on him constantly, and despite her beautiful appearance, there was something predatory in the way she watched him, something that reminded him of a snake watching a mouse. I need time to think about this, he said, backing away slightly. Lyra's expression shifted. Something like disappointment, or perhaps anger, flashed across her features before she composed herself again. Very well, she said, her voice cooler than before. You have until sunrise to decide. After that, I must return to my ship with or without your cooperation. She glided toward the door. I will wait in my vessel. After she left, Jake locked the door of his workshop, though he doubted a simple lock would keep her out if she decided to return. His hands were shaking as he turned on his old computer and connected to the internet. He needed more information. Jake used the time to search online for any strange sightings or reports in the area. He found several stories from nearby towns, people describing odd lights and missing pets. Some even claimed to have seen purple-skinned figures watching them from a distance. One report mentioned a farmer finding his cattle drained of blood with only small puncture wounds as evidence. The more he read, the more his unease grew. These sightings had been happening for months, gradually increasing in frequency. The most recent was just 2 days ago, in a town less than 20 miles away. Jake also searched for information about rare genetic markers but found nothing that matched Lyra's description. He did, however, find an article about a research facility in Colorado studying unusual genetic variations in certain populations. The facility had reported a break-in 3 weeks ago with biological samples stolen. As the night wore on, Jake debated what to do. He could try to run, but how far could he get from beings capable of interstellar travel? He could call the authorities, but who would believe him? He had no proof except the alien woman waiting in a spaceship behind his garage. He thought about the silver disc and its promised cures. If Lyra was telling the truth, it could save millions of lives. But his instincts told him there was more to her story than she was revealing. Jake decided to confront her again. He needed more answers before making his decision. He grabbed a flashlight and a wrench, the closest thing to a weapon he had, and stepped outside. The desert. Night was cool and clear stars spread across the sky like diamonds. The alien ship sat in the field, its metallic surface reflecting the moonlight. As Jake approached the ramp, lowered again, as if expecting him, Lyra stood waiting at the entrance. Her amber eyes seemed to glow brighter in the darkness. Come, she said, gesturing inside. I will show you proof of what I offer against his better judgment. Jake followed her into the ship. The interior was larger than it appeared from outside curved walls, glowing with the same blue light he had seen earlier. Strange symbols scrolled across surfaces that looked like screens. Devices of unknown purpose hummed softly. This is our medical bay, Lyra said, leading him to a room with what looked like examination, tables and equipment no human hospital possessed. Here we study compatible subjects and extract what we need. Subjects, not volunteers, Jake noted, Lyra's choice of words increasing his suspicion. Lyra ignored his comment. Instead, she activated a holographic display showing cellular structures and DNA sequences. These are your cells, she said. We collected a sample while you slept last week. Jake felt violated and angry. You took my DNA without permission. It was necessary, Lyra replied without remorse. See, these markers. She pointed to glowing sections of the DNA strand. These are what make you valuable to us. Jake stared at the display, trying to understand what he was seeing. What exactly happens during this extraction process? He asked. Lyra hesitated before answering. It is simple. I will connect you to this device. She indicated what looked like a reclined chair with restraints and tubes. You will sleep while we take what we need. When you wake, the process will be complete. You will be tired for a few days, but otherwise unharmed. Otherwise unharmed, Jake repeated. What aren't you telling me? Before Lyra could respond, Jake noticed something strange. The walls of the ship seemed to shift, reflecting his image like mirrors, but Lyra herself cast no reflection at all. Just like the vampires of human legend, she noticed his gaze and her expression changed. Her beautiful face hardened. Her amber eyes now glowed fiercely. You are observant. Jake Miller, she said, her voice taking on a dangerous edge, more so than we anticipated. Jake backed toward the exit, but Lyra moved with incredible speed, blocking his path. Her graceful movements now seemed predatory, threatening. Her fangs were fully visible as she smiled without warmth. Perhaps we should begin the procedure immediately, she said. Rather than wait for your decision, Jake knew he was in serious danger. He had to find a way out, or at least learn the truth. Why did the Vestari really come to Earth, and what did they? 6 months had passed since the destruction of the Vestari mothership. Jake stood at the window of his new apartment in Washington, D.C., looking out at the city below. The world had changed in ways few people realized. The existence of the Global Defense Initiative, or GDI, remained classified, known only to top government officials and those directly involved. Jake had been promoted from field agent to tactical advisor. His experience with the Vestari made him invaluable to the organization. As one of the few humans to have direct contact with an elder, he provided insights that helped develop new defensive strategies. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find Kelly standing there, a file folder in her hand, still working. On a Saturday, she asked with a smile. Jake shrugged old habits. He stepped aside, allowing her to enter. The apartment was sparsely furnished. Just the basics. Jake had never been one for decorating, and his recent experiences had only reinforced his minimalist tendencies. Kelly placed the folder on his kitchen counter. You need to see this, she said, her expression turning serious. Jake opened the folder. Inside were satellite images showing an unusual structure in the Siberian wilderness. The object was partially buried in the ground, but its distinctive crescent shape was unmistakable. A Vestari scout ship, Jake said quietly. One of the ones that escaped. Kelly nodded. It was discovered 3 days ago by one of our monitoring satellites. The Russians have secured the area but haven't approached the vessel. They requested our assistance through back channels. Jake studied the images. The ship appeared intact, though damaged, possibly from a rough landing. What about life signs? He asked. Any indication of survivors? According to thermal scans, there may be at least one Vestari still active inside, Kelly replied. The Russian team reported unusual electromagnetic activity, consistent with Vestari technology. Jake closed the folder. This makes 17 confirmed Vestari vessels that escaped the mothership destruction. 17 potential threats scattered across Earth. Kelly sat on one of his kitchen stools. The good news is that most are damaged, and the Vestari aboard are in weakened states without their elder leadership. But she trailed off. But they still need to feed. Jake finished her thought, and they still pose a threat to humanity. Kelly nodded. The director wants you on site for this one, she said. You have the most direct experience with active Vestari. Jake wasn't surprised. The GDI had been sending him to recovery operations around the world for months. His knowledge of Vestari biology and behavior had proven crucial in containing the scattered aliens. When do we leave? He asked, already mentally preparing a checklist of equipment. Transport leaves from Andrews at 600 tomorrow, Kelly replied. She hesitated before adding, There's something else you should know. Jake looked at her questioningly. Kelly pulled another document from the folder. This one contained medical reports. The Vestari we captured from the lunar operation. Specifically Subject V7. Jake recognized the designation. It referred to a Vestari that had been found barely alive in an escape pod after the mothership destruction, one that had been brought to a secure GDI facility for study. The medical team has been running tests, Kelly explained. They believe this subject might be Lyra. Jake felt his heart rate increase. Lyra, but she was possessed by an elder. We saw it happen. Kelly pushed the report toward him. The DNA signature matches samples we took from the original Lyra before the lunar mission, and brain scans show patterns consistent with severe trauma and possible multiple personality disorder, as close as we can apply human psychological conditions to Vestari. Jake scanned the report. The implications were staggering. If Lyra had somehow survived separate from the elder that possessed her, what could she tell them about Vestari plans, their weaknesses, their intentions? Is she conscious? Jake asked. Semi-conscious, Kelly replied. She drifts in and out. Occasionally speaks, but mostly in her native language. The medical team believes she's suffering from something similar to dissociative identity disorder. The elder personality seems to be gone or dormant. Jake looked out his window again. The sun was setting over the Capitol, casting long shadows across the National Mall. He thought about the first night he met Lyra behind his workshop in Nevada. How much had changed since then? Do they think she can help us? He asked. Kelly shrugged. Possibly, if we can gain her trust and if she's willing. The director thought you might want to see her before we leave for Russia. Since you had the most direct contact. Jake nodded slowly. The GDI medical facility was located beneath what appeared to be an ordinary government building in Maryland. The underground complex stretched for acres, secure from observation or attack. Jake and Kelly passed through multiple security checkpoints, each requiring biometric confirmation before entering the medical wing. Dr. Lisa Granger, the chief xenobiologist, greeted them. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and intense focus. Jake had worked with her before during the initial studies of Vestari biology. She's stable today, Dr. Granger said, leading them through the sterile corridors. We adjusted her environment to more closely match Vestari norms. The temperature is significantly lower than human comfort, so you'll need these. She handed them insulated jackets. They stopped at a reinforced door with warning signs indicating an isolation chamber. Beyond this point is a Class 4 containment area. Dr. Granger explained, all interactions are monitored and recorded for security purposes. The subject is restrained but capable of limited movement. Jake nodded, understanding the precautions. Despite months of study, the GDI still considered all Vestari extremely dangerous, particularly to someone like Jake with the genetic markers they hunted. Dr. Granger entered a code on the keypad. The door slid open, revealing an antechamber. Jake and Kelly put on their insulated gear before proceeding to the main chamber. The room beyond was dimly lit with the blue light Jake had come to associate with Vestari technology. The temperature was frigid. His breath formed clouds in front of his face. The center of the room contained a transparent enclosure within it. On a medical bed lay a figure. Jake approached slowly. The figure was unmistakably Vestari. Her purple skin was paler than he remembered, more gray than violet. Her once vibrant amber eyes were dull, barely glowing in the dim light. She was connected to various monitoring devices, some human, some clearly adapted from captured Vestari technology. Lyra, Jake said softly. The alien woman's eyes turned toward him, focusing with apparent effort. She studied him for a long moment. Recognition slowly dawned in her expression. Jake Miller, she said, her voice weak, but unmistakably the one he remembered. Not the multiple voices of the elder. The one who destroyed the mothership. Jake moved closer to the enclosure. Yes, he confirmed. Did you help us escape? The bay doors. Lyra closed her eyes briefly. The elder Varys was distracted, fighting for control. I took advantage of the momentary weakness. She reopened her eyes. The explosion separated us somehow. I was in an escape pod when consciousness returned. So the elder is dead? Jake asked. Lyra nodded. I believe so. The body we shared was torn apart by the separation. I was found in this form, regenerated but weakened. Her hand gestured weakly at her current state. Jake had many questions, but one pressed forward more urgently than others. Why did you help us? Lyra was silent for a moment. The elders were wrong, she said finally. They had become consumed by hunger. The ancient balance was lost. They would have destroyed your world completely, left nothing alive. She looked directly at Jake. Our people once had a code. Take only what was needed. Leave the host species to recover. But the elders' hunger grew beyond reason. beyond control. Kelly spoke for the first time. Are there more elders? On the ships that escaped, Lyra shook her head. No. The elders remained on the mothership, coordinating through telepathic links. Those who escaped are like me. Scouts, technicians, soldiers. Dangerous still, but not with the powers of the elders. Jake felt some relief at this news. The surviving Vistari were still threats, but not the nearly unstoppable beings they had faced on the mothership. What will happen to me? Lyra asked. Her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Granger stepped forward. We need your help, she said. There are other Vistari on Earth. Some may be planning to contact your homeworld. To send more ships. Lyra closed her eyes again. The journey from our world takes centuries, she explained. Most who came here were born aboard the mothership, never saw our homeworld. But yes, some may attempt communication. Jake leaned closer to the enclosure. Will you help us find them? Stop them before more humans are harmed? Lyra looked at him with those amber eyes that had once terrified him. What choice do I have? She asked. I am your prisoner. Jake considered her words. She was right. Of course, the GDI would never release a Vistari regardless of her apparent cooperation. But there was something in her voice, something that suggested more complex motivations. You helped us escape the mothership. Jake pointed out, when you could have let us die. Why? Lyra was quiet for a long time. The elders were wrong, she repeated. I saw through their memories what they planned for Earth. It was genocide, not survival. She looked at Jake. I learned from you, Jake Miller, that humans are more than prey. Your courage, your determination to protect your kind. It reminded me of what the Vistari once were before the hunger consumed us. Jake wasn't sure if he believed her completely, but he sensed a genuine conflict within her. A being caught between loyalties to her own kind and a recognition of their moral failure. The truth came out in a rush. The Vistari were indeed like vampires. They needed human blood, but not for the reasons Lyra had claimed. Their species fed on human life force contained within the blood. The silver disc she offered contained no cures. It was a tracking device that would mark humans with compatible blood for future harvesting. You lied to me, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady despite his fear. Lyra tilted her head, studying him like a scientist might examine an interesting specimen. I simplified, she corrected. We do need your genetic material to survive. Our species is dying, but the process is not as mutual as I implied. The extraction takes more than just blood. It harvests life energy. She gestured to a wall that suddenly became transparent, revealing a chamber behind it. Inside were 5 transparent pods. Each contained a human floating in blue liquid. Their skin was gray and withered, as if they had aged decades in days. Tubes connected to their bodies pulsed with red fluid. These were all compatible donors like you, Lyra explained. Their life force sustains 10 Vistari each. The process takes approximately 30 of your Earth days. After that, the shells are disposed of. Shells? Jake felt sick. You mean their bodies? Their empty dead bodies. Lyra nodded without emotion. They serve a greater purpose. Their genetics help save an advanced civilization. Your short human lives are nothing compared to what we have achieved. We have existed for millions of years while your species has barely begun to evolve. Jake looked at the pods again, noticing details he had missed. One of the victims wore a uniform with a name tag. He recognized the name. It was from one of the missing persons reports he had read online. A truck driver who disappeared 3 weeks ago from a town 60 miles away. You said you don't kill your hosts? Jake accused, his voice rising with anger. But those people are dying, or already dead. Not immediately, Lyra corrected. And their genetic material lives on in us. Is that not a form of immortality for your kind? Jake felt rage building inside him. These beings had been preying on humans for who knows how long, creating myths and legends about vampires in their wake. Now they planned a larger harvest using people like him as their cattle. Lyra continued talking as if explaining something simple to a child. The Vistari have visited your planet for millennia. We were worshipped as gods by your ancestors. We took only what we needed maintaining. Balance, but our needs have grown. Our population faces extinction without a significant increase in compatible donors. She stepped closer to Jake, her amber eyes intense. We have ships positioned around your planet. Once we confirm enough compatible humans, we will begin a mass harvesting. Your governments will be helpless against our technology. Jake looked for any way to escape, but Lyra blocked the only exit. Her supernatural strength would overpower him easily if he tried to fight. She expected him to panic to beg for his life. But something unexpected happened. Jake smiled. I know what you are, he said calmly. I have known since you stepped out of your ship, Lyra's. Expression shifted to confusion, then suspicion. What do you mean? Jake revealed his own secret. He was part of a hidden human defense force created after previous alien encounters. Their technology had advanced far beyond what the Vistari realized. Humans had been preparing for this moment for generations. We detected your ship, entering our atmosphere a week ago. Jake explained you were tracked to this location. I was placed here as bait. Lyra hissed, her fangs fully extended. You are lying. Your primitive technology cannot detect our vessels. We use cloaking systems beyond your comprehension. Jake raised his wrist, showing a small device that looked like a watch. The moment you took me aboard this ship, I activated a tracking beacon. My team knows exactly where we are and what your people have been doing. As if on cue, the ship shuddered. A loud noise like thunder rolled through the structure. Warning symbols flashed across the walls. Lyra looked alarmed for the first time. What have you done? She demanded. Jake stood straighter, no longer afraid. The tables had turned. The hunters had become the hunted. That's an electromagnetic pulse designed specifically to disable Vistari technology. He said your ship is now locked down. Nothing can leave or enter. The ship shuddered again. More warning symbols appeared. Lyra moved to a control panel, but nothing responded to her touch. Outside, the workshop was suddenly surrounded by lights. Dozens of specially trained agents emerged from hiding places. They had been watching, monitoring everything. Vehicle headlights illuminated the area around the ship. Special forces in tactical gear approached from all directions. Their weapons were unlike standard military issue, designed specifically to handle alien threats. You underestimated us. Lyra, Jake said. That has always been the mistake your kind makes. You see humans as nothing but food as prey. But we are survivors. We learn. We adapt, and we protect our own through the ships now. Transparent walls. Jake could see the human agents setting up equipment around the vessel. Large devices were positioned at strategic points, creating an energy field that enveloped the entire ship. Lyra pressed her hands against the wall, watching in disbelief. This is impossible, she whispered. Your species is too primitive for such technology. Not primitive, Jake corrected. Just cautious. We keep our advanced technology hidden even from our own people because of creatures like you. He explained that after previous encounters with alien species, Earth governments had secretly formed a unified defense program. They studied captured alien technology, reverse-engineered it, and developed countermeasures against potential threats. The program recruited people with specific skills and placed them in strategic locations around the world. Ordinary citizens with extraordinary training, ready to act when needed. Jake was one such agent, positioned in this small Nevada town because it had been identified as a potential landing zone based on previous Vistari visitation patterns. His mechanical workshop provided the perfect cover, allowing him to monitor the area, while appearing to be nothing more than a simple small-town mechanic. The ship systems continued to fail one by one. The lights dimmed, emergency systems activated, but they, too, began to fail. The human agents outside had neutralized all power sources. What will happen to me? Lyra asked. Her voice had lost its confidence. Jake looked at the pods containing the human victims. You will be studied, just as you studied us. We will learn everything about your species, your weaknesses, your homeworld, your plans. The captured alien would provide valuable intelligence, and we will free your prisoners if they're still alive. he added. A voice came through Jake's communication device. Team Alpha in position. Agent Miller status report. Jake pressed his wrist device. Target secured, he reported. Ship neutralized. 5 human captives located. Status unknown. Request immediate medical team. Understood, came the reply. Extraction team entering. Now stand by. The ship's entrance opened again, but this time human agents rushed in. Their tactical gear included helmets with specialized visors and weapons designed to incapacitate alien biology. They quickly secured Lyra, binding her with restraints that nullified her enhanced strength. As agents took Lyra away, she looked at Jake with a mixture of rage and newfound respect. "You are not what we thought humans were," she said. "You are more dangerous than we ever imagined." Jake nodded. "That is something your people should have learned a long time ago. Never underestimate humanity when threatened. We become the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The medical team rushed to the pods, checking the status of the captives. Jake watched anxiously, hoping they could be saved. Their families deserved closure at the very least. Agent Kelly, a woman with short brown hair, approached Jake. "You did good work." "Miller," she said, "this is the biggest capture we've had yet. The intel will be invaluable." Jake looked at the alien ship, now powerless and under human control. "What about the other ships?" Lyra mentioned. "There are more out there." Kelly nodded grimly. "We're tracking them. All field agents have been activated worldwide. This is just the beginning." The human Defense Force would use the information from Lyra and her ship to prepare Earth for what might come next. A potential invasion. A galactic war. But for the first time, the Vistari would face an enemy that knew their secrets, an enemy that was ready for them as the alien ship was secured for transport. Jake looked up at the stars, wondering how many other species were out there watching Earth. Some might come in peace. Others, like the Vistari, might come as predators. Either way, humanity would be ready. The vampire alien woman had wanted Jake, but her true purpose had been revealed, and now the hunter had become the prey. 3 days later, Jake sat in a debriefing room at a secret underground facility hidden beneath what appeared to be an abandoned military base in the Nevada desert. The room was filled with high-ranking officials from various agencies around the world, all united under the Global Defense Initiative, or GDI as insiders called it. Director Harper, a stern-looking woman with gray hair and piercing blue eyes, led the meeting. "The Vistari prisoner has provided significant information," she began. "Some voluntarily, some through our enhanced interrogation methods." She displayed images on the large screen showing star charts and alien text based on what we've learned. There are 7 more scout ships currently on Earth, each tasked with identifying and collecting compatible humans. Their main vessel remains in orbit on the dark side of the moon, hidden from conventional detection methods. "What about the people they captured?" Kelly asked from her seat beside Jake. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of intense training. Jake and the other selected agents prepared for the most important mission in human history. Their target was the Vistari mothership, and failure meant Earth would face a full-scale invasion. Jake stood in the training facility, a converted warehouse deep within the secret base. He wore a specialized tactical suit designed to protect against Vistari abilities. The material was lightweight, but could withstand extreme temperatures and was resistant to the energy weapons the aliens used. Agent Kelly approached, adjusting her own tactical gear. "Ready for another round?" she asked, gesturing toward the simulation chamber. Jake nodded, though his muscles ached from the previous sessions. The simulations were based on information extracted from Lyra and scans of her scout ship. They needed to be prepared for every possible scenario as they entered the chamber. The environment shifted holographic technology, creating a replica of Vistari ship corridors. The lighting changed to the eerie blue glow Jake remembered from Lyra's vessel. "Begin simulation level 5, a computerized voice announced. Holographic Vistari appeared, their amber eyes glowing in the dim light. Jake and Kelly moved in practiced coordination. Their weapons fired harmless training pulses that registered hits on the simulated targets. They navigated through the ship, avoiding traps and ambushes. Jake had become proficient with the specialized equipment. His reflexes had been enhanced through a treatment derived ironically from Vistari biology. Their own genetic material was being used against them. After an hour, the simulation ended with a successful completion. Kelly grinned at Jake. Not bad for a small-town mechanic. Jake smiled, though. He felt little humor. Their mission was too important for levity. "When do we deploy?" he asked. Kelly checked her tactical pad. 20 hours, she replied. "The final briefing is at Ors 600 tomorrow. You should get some rest." Jake nodded, but knew sleep would be difficult. His mind was too busy processing everything that had happened since that night when Lyra landed behind his workshop. How quickly life could change. He returned to his quarters, a sparse room with just the essentials. On his desk sat a small container with a tissue sample from his own blood. The rare genetic markers that had made him a target for the Vistari now made him essential to humanity's defense. The scientists had developed a way to use these markers to create a biological countermeasure against the aliens. Jake lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the captured Vistari. Lyra was kept in a special containment cell designed to neutralize her abilities. She had provided valuable information, some willingly. After realizing her people had abandoned her, some information had been extracted through less pleasant means. Jake had visited her containment cell once. He needed to understand their enemy better. Lyra had seemed smaller somehow. Her purple skin had faded to a dull gray. Her amber eyes no longer glowed with the same intensity. The restraints around her wrists suppressed her natural abilities. "You think you've won?" she had said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake had studied her, noting how different she looked without her predatory confidence. "We haven't won yet," he replied. "But we've evened the odds." Lyra laughed a hollow sound. "You have no idea what you're facing. The ship you're planning to attack contains our elders, the oldest and most powerful of our kind. They have abilities your people cannot comprehend." Jake leaned closer. "What kind of abilities?" Lyra smiled, showing her fangs still sharp. "Why should I tell you? Your people will dissect me either way because cooperation might mean survival," Jake said. "For both our species. There must be a solution that doesn't involve harvesting humans." Lyra's expression changed. Something like surprise crossed her features. "You would still seek peace after what we planned to do?" Jake shrugged. "We're not all monsters," he said. "Unlike your elders, we don't see other species as merely food or tools." Now, as he prepared for sleep, Jake wondered if there could truly be peace between humans and Vistari, or was conflict inevitable when one species saw the other? As prey morning came too quickly, Jake met with the strike team in the briefing room. Director Harper stood at the front, her expression grave. The screen behind her showed the dark side of the moon and the massive Vistari mothership. "Our intelligence indicates the ship is operating with minimal crew," she explained. "Most Vistari remain in stasis chambers. Their defensive systems are automated, but will activate once we approach." She displayed a schematic of the ship highlighting specific areas. "Your team will board here," she said, pointing to what appeared to be a maintenance access point. "You will proceed to the central command and deploy the disruptor device that will temporarily disable their systems, allowing our second team to access the stasis chamber controls." The plan was to keep as many Vistari in stasis as possible while securing the ship. The fewer awake enemies they faced, the better their chances. "What about Lyra?" asked Kelly. "Will she cooperate?" Harper nodded. "She's agreed to provide authentication codes to bypass some security systems in exchange for certain considerations." Jake wondered what considerations Lyra had negotiated. He doubted the GDI would be generous with an alien who had planned to farm humans. "The transport to take you to the lunar insertion point leaves in 2 hours," Harper concluded. "Any questions?" The room was silent. Everyone understood the stakes. You have been chosen because you represent humanity's best chance, Harper said, with unusual emotion in her voice. "What you do today will determine the future of our species. Good luck." The team dispersed to make final preparations. Jake went to check his equipment one last time. Each agent carried specialized weapons, a disruptor that could stun Vistari, and a more lethal pulse rifle for extreme situations. Their suits included oxygen recyclers and temperature regulation for the vacuum of spaces. Jake inspected his gear. Kelly approached. "Want to grab some food before we go?" She suggested, "This might be our last meal on Earth." Jake nodded, following her to the facility cafeteria. They ate in relative silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Kelly spoke. "Did you ever think when you signed up for the program that you'd end up leading a mission to the moon?" Jake shook his head. "I thought I'd spend years just watching the sky filing reports about strange lights." He smiled slightly. The recruitment officer mentioned possible alien contact, but this was exactly what I had in mind. Kelly laughed. Just another day protecting Earth from space vampires. Their moment of levity was interrupted by an alarm blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. All personnel emergency protocols activated. A voice announced over the intercom, "Perimeter breach detected. Unknown hostiles approaching from multiple vectors." Jake and Kelly rushed to the command center where Director Harper was coordinating a response. The screens showed aerial views of the facility. Multiple objects were descending from the Sci-Fi Story dropships, Harper said grimly. "They found us." "How?" Jake demanded. "Our location is classified top secret, Lyra." Harper replied, "They have a connection to her. Some kind of telepathic link. They followed our transport when we moved her here." The facility shook as something impacted the surface above. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We need to evacuate." "Kelly," said Harper, shook her head. "There's no time. Their main force will be here in minutes." She made a decision. Implement Omega Protocol. Jake knew what that meant. The facility had a self-destruct mechanism designed to prevent alien technology from falling into the wrong hands if the base was overrun. "What about the mission?" Jake asked. "We still need to stop their mothership." Harper turned to him. "The mission parameters have changed, Agent Miller." She handed him a small device the size of a credit card. "This contains an enhanced version of the disruptor. It's been modified based on new information from Lyra. It will not just disable their ship. It will trigger a chain reaction in their power core, a bomb." Jake realized she was giving him a way to destroy the mothership entirely. "Take your team," and Lyra, Harper ordered. "Use the emergency shuttle in Hangar E. It's our only stealth-capable craft. The rest of us will hold them off as long as possible." Jake wanted to argue to find another way, but he knew there was no time. The Vistari were coming in force. "Get your team," he told Kelly. "I'll get." Lyra. Jake ran to the containment sector. The facility continued to shake from impacts. Guards were rushing to defensive positions, alarms blaring everywhere. He reached Lyra's cell and opened the security door. She sat calmly, as if expecting him. "The elders have come for me," she said. Jake activated the release on her restraints but kept his weapon ready. "We need your help," he said. "The deal's changed. You're coming with us to the mothership." Lyra stood, rubbing her wrists. "What makes you think I would help you now that my people have come?" Jake aimed his weapon at her heart. "Because if you don't, every Vestry on Earth will be hunted down and killed, including you. We know how to find you." Now, Lyra considered her options. She could sense the approaching Vestry forces. But she also knew what would happen if the elders succeeded. Humanity would be harvested on a massive scale. Billions would die. "I will help you," she decided finally. "But not because of your threats. Because the elders abandoned me, left me to die in your custody. Their plan would destroy this world completely. Their hunger knows no limits." Jake kept his weapon trained on her as they moved through the corridors toward Hangar. Kelly and 4 other agents were already there preparing the shuttle. "What is she doing here?" demanded Agent Wilson, a tall man with a scar across his chin. The shuttle approached the dark side of the moon using minimal power to avoid detection. The Vistari mothership came into view, its massive crescent shape blocking the stars behind it. The ship dwarfed anything humans had built, its surface covered with intricate patterns that pulsed with blue energy. "This is it," Kelly whispered from the pilot seat. "Humanity has never encountered anything like this before." Jake studied the ship through the viewport, noting its size and features. Based on their intelligence, the mothership contained thousands of Vistari, most in stasis chambers waiting to be awakened. when sufficient human hosts were located. The ship also carried enough smaller vessels to transport Vistari forces to Earth for a full-scale invasion. Lyra sat silently, her eyes fixed on her people's vessel. There was an unreadable expression on her purple-hued face. The closest approach point is near the maintenance sector, Kelly reported, checking her instruments. The area shows minimal activity, just as our intelligence suggested. Jake turned to Lyra. Is that information accurate, he asked. Or are we flying into a trap? Lyra met his gaze. The maintenance sectors are largely automated, she confirmed. There will be few, if any, awake Vistari there. But the automated security systems will detect your approach unless I provide the correct codes. Jake studied her, trying to determine if she was telling the truth. They had no choice but to trust her, at least partially. Their mission depended on getting aboard undetected. We're proceeding with the approach, he decided. Tell us what to do. Lyra instructed Kelly to transmit on a specific frequency using a pattern she described. The shuttle communication system was modified to send the alien code. A tense minute passed as they waited for a response there. Jake pointed to a section of the mothership. A small area of the hull was changing color, shifting from the usual blue glow to a deeper purple. That is our access point, Lyra confirmed. Kelly guided the shuttle toward the indicated area, moving slowly to avoid triggering other security systems. The shuttle had been designed with stealth technology, originally created to evade Earth-based radar, but modified based on what they had learned about Vistari sensors. As they neared the access point, an opening appeared in the hull large enough for their shuttle to enter. Kelly maneuvered carefully into what appeared to be a docking bay. The artificial gravity pulled them down as the external doors closed behind them. The team checked their weapons and equipment one last time. Each member carried the specialized disruptors designed to incapacitate Vistari. Jake carried the enhanced device Harper had given him, the one that could destroy the entire ship if necessary. He kept it hidden, not wanting Lyra to know their ultimate plan. The air is breathable, Lyra told them. But the gravity is lighter than Earth's and the temperature is lower. Your suits should compensate. Jake nodded to his team. Weapons ready, formation Delta, he ordered. They exited the shuttle in practiced precision, forming a defensive pattern with Lyra in the center under guard. The docking bay was dimly lit with the same blue glow they had seen throughout Vistari technology. The walls seemed to pulse slightly, as if the ship itself was alive. Which way to the central command center? Jake asked. Lyra, she pointed to a corridor leading away from the docking bay. That direction, but we must move quickly. The maintenance systems will report our presence eventually, even with the authorization codes I provided. The team moved through the corridor, their footsteps eerily silent in the ship's strange atmosphere. The interior of the mothership was vast, with high ceilings and curved walls covered in symbols that shifted and changed as they passed. Jake recognized some of the patterns from the data they had gathered from Lyra's scout ship. They encountered no Vistari in the first section, moving through what appeared to be storage areas filled with unfamiliar technology. The team maintained communication through their tactical headsets, reporting observations and potential threats as they approached a junction. Lyra suddenly stopped. We must take a different route, she whispered, pointing to an alternative corridor. Why? Asked Agent Wilson, his weapon trained on her. 2 technicians ahead. Lyra explained. They are awake and would sound an alarm. Jake signaled the team to follow her alternative route. Though he remained suspicious of Lyra's motives, they had little choice but to rely on her knowledge of the ship. The mission depended on reaching the central command without alerting the entire vessel. The new route took them through narrower passages clearly not meant for regular use. The ceiling was lower, forcing them to crouch as they moved. The blue glow was dimmer here, creating shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. We are passing near the stasis chambers, Lyra informed them. Keep your voices down. The elders can sometimes sense presence even in their sleep. Jake felt a chill run down his spine at the mention of the elders, the ancient and powerful Vistari that Lyra had warned about. He wondered what abilities these beings possessed and whether their human weapons would be effective against them. The passage widened, opening into a vast chamber filled with transparent pods, similar to the ones Jake had seen in Lyra's scout ship, but much larger. Each pod contained a Vestari floating in blue, liquid connected to tubes and monitoring devices. There were hundreds, perhaps thousands of pods extending as far as they could see in the dimly lit chamber. "These are my people," Lyra said, her voice carrying a hint of emotion. "Most have been in stasis, for centuries awakened only when feeding is necessary." Jake looked at the sleeping aliens. Each one represented a potential threat to humanity. Each would require human victims to survive. The scale of their planned harvesting operation became clear. As he gazed at the endless rows of pods, "We need to keep moving," Kelly whispered. "We're exposed." Here Jake nodded, and they continued following Lyra through the stasis chamber. She led them to another passage on the far side. "This will take us directly to the approach corridor for Central Command," she said. "But it will be guarded." The team readied their weapons. Jake checked the settings on his disruptor, making sure it was calibrated for maximum effectiveness against Vestari biology. According to their intelligence, the weapon should incapacitate a Vestari long enough to secure them. As they neared the end of the passage, Lyra held up a hand to stop them. "Two guards," she whispered. "They will not accept authorization codes. Someone must always be physically present." Jake signaled to Kelly and Wilson. They moved forward silently, their training evident in their fluid movements. The rest of the team, including Jake and Lyra, waited. Moments later, Kelly signaled the all-clear. The team proceeded to find the two Vestari guards unconscious, secured with specialized restraints designed to hold them. Despite their enhanced strength, "Good work," Jake told his team. "The Central Command should be through those doors." He pointed to a large set of doors at the end of the corridor. The symbols on them pulsed with more intense light than they had seen elsewhere on the ship. Lyra approached the doors, placing her hand on a panel beside them. The door slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with technology. Beyond human understanding, curved consoles with shifting symbols filled the room. The walls were transparent, showing the stars and the distant Earth. A single Vestari stood at the central console. The alien turned as they entered, its amber eyes widening. In surprise, Lyra, it hissed, "What is the meaning of this? These humans are not authorized." Before the Vestari could react, Wilson fired his disruptor. The alien collapsed, its body convulsing as the weapon's energy disrupted its nervous system. "Secure the room," Jake ordered. The team moved quickly, checking for other Vestari and confirming they were alone. Once certain, they began setting up their equipment. According to their intelligence, this Central Command could control all ship functions, including the stasis chambers. Jake approached what appeared to be the main console. "What now?" he asked Lyra. She moved to stand beside him. "This is where the ship functions are monitored and controlled," she explained, placing her hands on the console. The symbols shifted, responding to her touch. "I can access the stasis chamber controls from here." While Lyra worked, Jake discreetly prepared the enhanced disruptor device Harper had given him. According to the specifications, it needed to be connected to the ship's main power distribution system to trigger the chain reaction that would destroy the mothership. Kelly approached him, speaking quietly. "Are we still proceeding with the original plan?" Jake hesitated. The original mission had been to disable the ship, temporarily allowing them to neutralize the threat. But Director Harper had changed those orders, giving him the means to eliminate the Vestari completely. Before he could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the chamber. The symbols on all consoles turned red. Lyra stepped back from the main console, her expression grim. "What happened?" Jake demanded. "They know we're here," Lyra said. "The elders have awakened." The ship seemed to come alive around them. The lights pulsed faster. The temperature dropped. Dramatically, Jake could see his breath in the suddenly frigid air. "How many?" Wilson asked, his weapon raised. Lyra looked terrified. "All of them," she whispered. "The elders have activated the emergency protocols. All stasis chambers are opening." Jake made his decision quickly. "Connect the primary disruptor to the ship's systems," he ordered his team. "We stick to the original plan. Disable the ship, then neutralize the threat." The team moved to carry out his orders, but Jake knew that if thousands of Vestari were awakening, they might not have time to destroy the ship completely. Might be their only option.